In the heart of Greek mythology lies a story of ambition, ingenuity, and the peril of human pride. The tale of Daedalus and Icarus is one of the most famous myths, embodying themes of creativity, the relationship between fathers and sons, and the consequences of ignoring one's limits. Daedalus, a master craftsman and inventor, created marvels that seemed to defy the laws of nature, while his son, Icarus, symbolized youthful recklessness and the desire to transcend the boundaries of mortality. The genius of Daedalus. Daedalus was renowned throughout the ancient world as an extraordinarily skilled craftsman, inventor, and architect. His creations were not only functional, but also astoundingly complex. He was capable of designing intricate labyrinths, building machines of great precision, and inventing tools that seemed like magic to those around him. His most famous creation was the labyrinth on the island of Crete, commissioned by King Minos to house the Minotaur, a monstrous creature that was half man and half bull. The labyrinth was so vast and complicated that it was nearly impossible for anyone to find their way out once they entered. Minos, fearing that someone might expose the secret of the labyrinth, imprisoned Daedalus and his son Icarus in the very structure that the inventor had created. It is here, in the depths of the labyrinth, that the tragic story of Daedalus and Icarus unfolds.
King Minos, having used Daedalus's genius to build the labyrinth, now sought to prevent the inventor from revealing the secrets of the maze. Thus, he locked Daedalus and Icarus away on the island of Crete. The two were held captive in a high tower, with no hope of escape. Minos believed that if Daedalus could not leave the island, the secrets of the labyrinth would remain safe with him. Daedalus, however, was not one to accept defeat easily. As a brilliant inventor, he immediately began thinking of a way to escape the island. He realized that there was one way out, the sky. By using his skills in craft and invention, Daedalus could build a set of wings for both himself and his son Icarus. The idea of flying had been a dream for many of the ancient peoples, but Daedalus was one of the few who had the ingenuity and the resources to make this dream a reality.
Daedalus set to work, gathering feathers from birds that flew over the tower. He carefully selected the best feathers and arranged them to form a set of wings that could be attached to the body. Using wax, Daedalus fashioned a mechanism that would hold the feathers together and allow the wings to function as a single aerodynamic unit. The wings were lightweight, yet strong enough to lift the weight of a man into the air. After completing the wings for himself and his son, Daedalus instructed Icarus on how to use them. He warned Icarus of the dangers of flying too high or too low. If he flew too high, the sun's heat would melt the wax that held the wings together, causing them to fall apart. If he flew too low, the dampness of the sea would weigh down the feathers, making them too heavy to fly. Daedalus urged Icarus to maintain a middle path between the two extremes, flying neither too close to the sun nor too near the sea. On the day of their escape, father and son strapped on the wings and took to the sky. For the first time in their lives, they were free. They soared over the island, marveling at the landscape below them. Daedalus, being the more experienced of the two, flew carefully, maintaining the course he had planned. Icarus, however, was filled with a sense of exhilaration and freedom. The winds carried him higher and higher, and he began to forget his father's warnings.
As Icarus flew higher, he felt the warmth of the sun on his face. The heat grew more intense, and the wax in his wings began to soften. Still, Icarus, intoxicated by the thrill of flight, ignored the danger. He rose higher and higher toward the blazing sun. Daedalus, who was flying below him, called out,
but his voice was carried away by the wind. Suddenly, disaster struck. The wax in Icarus' wings began to melt. The feathers detached from the wings, and Icarus plummeted toward the sea below. The waters of the Icarian Sea, now named after him, swallowed the young boy. Daedalus, heartbroken and filled with despair, flew low over the sea, desperately searching for his son. But it was too late. Icarus was gone. Daedalus, devastated by the loss of his son, continued his journey alone. He eventually reached the safety of Sicily, where he found refuge in the court of King Cocalus. There, Daedalus built many more marvelous inventions and continued to be celebrated for his extraordinary talents. However, no achievement could fill the void left by Icarus's tragic death. The sorrow that weighed upon Daedalus's heart remained with him for the rest of his life. The myth of Daedalus and Icarus has persisted through the centuries as a poignant reminder of the dangers of hubris, of pushing beyond the limits set by nature, and of the inevitable consequences of defying those boundaries. The story of Daedalus and Icarus carries a powerful message that resonates even in modern times. At its core, it is a tale of the balance between ambition and humility, and the consequences of ignoring one's limitations. The limits of human ambition. Daedalus represents the peak of human ingenuity. He creates wings that defy the limits of human flight, a marvel of technology and imagination. But Icarus, in his youthful exuberance, refuses to heed the warnings of his father. He allows his ambition to carry him beyond his capabilities, and in doing so, he pays the ultimate price. This part of the myth is a reminder that while human ambition can lead to great achievements, it can also bring about great destruction if one becomes too consumed by the desire to exceed natural limits.
The relationship between father and son. Daedalus and Icarus's story also reflects the dynamics between parents and their children. Daedalus, the protective father, gives his son the tools for freedom, but also the wisdom to survive. Icarus, on the other hand, embodies youthful defiance and the search for independence. The tension between the father's wisdom and the son's desire for freedom is a central theme, and it is this very tension that leads to the tragic outcome. Daedalus's warnings are not heeded, and the tragedy is both the result of Icarus's disobedience and his youthful inability to understand the limits of his power.